I have one thing to say to you, and it has already waited too long. Not until morning. Not until you have set down whatever is in your hands. Now, while my voice reaches you, because what I am about to say is already in motion, and you were meant to be standing here when it began. So hear these words. I am tired of trying to speak to you. Do not flinch at that. It is not what you think it is. I do not grow weary the way a man grows weary. I do not run low. I do not need rest to keep holding the world in place. When I say I am tired, I mean what a father means after he has called his child's name 100 times across a crowded room, and the child has never once turned his head. That is the ache in it, not exhaustion, grief. I have been speaking to you far longer than you know. Not in thunder, not in fire on a hillside. In the hour when you woke for no reason and lay there with your eyes open in the dark. In the sentence a stranger said that landed harder than it should have. In the road you almost took and then, without knowing why, did not take. You called those things chance. You called them mood. You called them nothing at all. They were me. I am not accusing you. I know exactly why you missed them. You were busy surviving. A person leaning into a hard wind does not feel a hand on his shoulder. You have been leaning into that wind for a long time, but the wind is dropping, and you are about to feel the hand. Something is going to happen to you, and it will catch you off guard. I choose those words carefully, because the world uses them to frighten people, and I do not frighten my own. What is coming is not disaster. It is disclosure. Something that has been sitting just under the surface of your life is going to rise where you can finally see it. And when it does, your breath will catch in your chest. Do not run when it does. Stand there, look straight at it. You have been asking me for answers, and you assumed answers would arrive quietly. Sometimes they do, but sometimes the answer is a door pushed open, and the light coming through is too strong for a moment, and you have to stand in it until your eyes adjust. That is what is happening to you. Your eyes are adjusting. Let me tell you about a boy who could not tell my voice from a man's. His name was Samuel, and he slept in my house. He was young, and he served an old priest named Eli, and my word was rare in those days. There were not many visions. People had grown used to the quiet, the way you have grown used to it. One night, while Samuel was lying down, I called him, "Samuel," and he got up and ran to Eli and said, "Here I am, you called me." And the old man said, "I did not call you. Go back and lie down." So he did, and I called him again, "Samuel." And he got up again and ran again and said the same thing. And the old man said the same thing back. "I did not call you, my son. Lie down. 3 times, my child." 3 times I spoke, and 3 times he ran to the wrong voice because he did not yet know mine. Understand that the boy was not rebellious. He was not ignoring me. He was obedient. He was quick. He came running every single time. He simply attributed my voice to the nearest familiar thing. That is what you have been doing. Every time I moved in your life, you handed the credit to something else. Good timing. A lucky break. A friend who happened to think of you. A bill that somehow got covered. A door that closed before you walked through it, into something that would have cost you dearly. You have been running to the wrong voice with the right heart. And notice what I did. I did not stop calling because he got it wrong twice. I did not decide he was not worth a 3rd attempt. I called again. And when the old priest finally understood what was happening, he told the boy what to say. "If you hear it again, say, 'Speak, for your servant is listening.'" That is the only thing that has been missing. Not your worthiness, not your effort. One sentence. Speak, for your servant is listening. Say it in your own words. Say it in the language your heart actually uses when no one else is around. I am not asking for eloquence. I am asking for attention. Because here is the part of that story most people rush past. After Samuel finally answered, the very first thing I told him was hard. It was not comfort. It was a difficult word about a house that had gone wrong and a correction that was coming. And the boy lay there until morning, afraid to say it out loud. I am telling you this so you will not confuse my nearness with ease. When I finally get through to someone, the first thing I say is often the thing they have been avoiding. Not because I enjoy discomfort, because I refuse to build your future on top of something rotten. I would rather show you the crack in the wall now than let you keep decorating the room. So when the surprise comes, and it is coming, do not mistake honesty for punishment. They feel similar for about a minute. They are nothing alike. Punishment leaves you smaller. Awakening leaves you clearer. I have never once tried to make you smaller. You have carried a suspicion that I have been withholding from you, that there is some good thing sitting on a shelf just out of reach, and I am waiting for you to earn it, and you have not earned it yet. Set that down. It is not true, and it never was. I have not been withholding. I have been waiting for a moment when you would be still enough to receive without dropping it. That moment is now. Not a symbolic now. This one. The one you are standing inside of while my voice moves through you. Do not let it pass the way the others passed. Say amen out loud, right now, if these words have found you where you actually live. Now let me tell you why you have been listening for the wrong sound. There was a man named Elijah who had just seen me do something enormous. Fire had fallen on a mountain in front of an entire nation. He had stood alone against hundreds and won. If ever a man had reason to feel certain of me, it was him on that day with the smoke still rising behind him. And then a threat came against his life and he ran. He ran into the wilderness and sat down under a broom tree and asked me to let him die. That is not a small detail. The same man who had called down fire in the afternoon wanted to stop breathing by nightfall. Strength is not a permanent condition, my child. Neither is faith. Both of them rise and fall like tide water, and I have never once withdrawn my hand because the tide was low. Do you know what I did for him first? Nothing spiritual at all. I let him sleep. Then I sent food, and I let him sleep again. And then I sent food a second time, before a single word of instruction, before any correction, before any assignment. Rest and bread, twice. I want you to sit with that because you have been convinced that what is wrong with you is a faith problem. Sometimes it is, but often what is wrong with a person is that they are worn thin and have not been fed, and they mistake plain human depletion for spiritual failure and then punish themselves for it. I do not punish a tired man for being tired. I feed him. Then I brought him to a mountain and told him to stand there, because I was about to pass by. And a great wind came, strong enough to tear the mountain apart and shatter the rocks. But I was not in the wind. After the wind, the ground shook. But I was not in the earthquake. After that, fire. But I was not in the fire. And after the fire, there was a low whisper, a thin sound. Almost nothing. And when he heard it, he wrapped his face in his cloak and went out and stood at the mouth of the cave, because he knew finally that this was me. My child, you have been standing in the mouth of your own cave, watching for the wind. You have been waiting for something loud enough to be undeniable, a sign so large that doubt could not survive it. And while you were watching the horizon for something dramatic, I've been speaking in the register I almost always use, which is quiet and steady, and easily lost under the noise of an ordinary day. The whisper is not weakness. It is intimacy. I speak softly to you for the same reason a person leans in close to say the thing that matters most. Volume is for crowds. Quiet is for the one you love. If you have been feeling that my voice was faint, consider that faint may be the sound of nearness rather than the sound of distance. But there is a harder truth in that story, and I will not hide it from you. Elijah heard the whisper, and the first thing I asked him was a question. "What are you doing here?" And he answered with a complaint. He told me he was the only one left. He told me everyone had abandoned the truth and he alone remained faithful, and now they wanted him dead. It was not true. There were 7,000 others who had never bowed to the false god. 7,000, and he could not see one of them from where he was sitting. Exhaustion does that. It shrinks the world down to the size of your own suffering, and then tells you that what you can see is all there is. You have believed you are the only one in your family who prays, the only one carrying the weight, the only one who has been faithful and gotten silence back. I am telling you plainly that your count is off. There are others. There are more of my people holding the same rope you are holding than you have any way of knowing from where you sit. And I did not scold him for getting it wrong. I corrected the number, gave him a task, and put a companion beside him for the road ahead. That is what I do with a wrong count. I correct it, and then I walk with you anyway. Speak your yes now before you can see how any of this ends. I want to name something you have not said out loud. You have wondered whether the difficult stretch you have been in is evidence that I stopped paying attention. You would never say it in those words. It comes out sideways, in a sigh, in a shrug, in the way you have quietly stopped asking me for certain things because you did not want to be disappointed again. I noticed when you stopped asking. That is the part you assumed I missed. You lowered your expectations of me so gradually that you did not notice yourself doing it. One prayer at a time, you narrowed what you believed I would do, until you were asking me for endurance instead of deliverance. Just help me get through this. Just help me not fall apart. I will always give you endurance. But I want you to know that you shrank the request, not me. Ask me for the whole thing again. I know that feels dangerous. Hope has cost you something before, and you have decided that expecting less is a kind of protection. It is not protection. It is a slow surrender dressed up as wisdom, and you are far too alive for that. Here is something else you did not see. You have been protected in ways you will never fully know on this side of things. There were paths you did not take, and you thought that was indecision. There were people who drifted out of your life, and you thought that was loss. Some of it was. Some of it was me, moving furniture in a dark room so you would not walk into the sharp corner. You have thanked me for a handful of things. You do not yet have the list of what you were spared. One day you will see it, and you will understand why some doors stayed shut no matter how hard you knocked. Not denial, redirection. A no that was protecting a yes you could not see yet. So stay with me now. I am not finished, and the part that is coming is the part I most want you to hear, because it deals directly with the thing you are afraid you have run out of time for. You have been counting years. I know you have. You do it late, when the house is quiet, and the arithmetic is always cruel. You add up how long you have been waiting and you compare it against how long you thought it would take, and the difference between those two numbers has become a wound you keep pressing on. Let me put a man in front of you who did that same arithmetic and came out the other side with fire still in him. His name was Caleb. When he was 40 years old, I sent him into a land I had already promised to my people, along with 11 other men, to go and look at it. 12 went in. 12 saw the same thing. High walls, fortified cities, men so large that the spies described themselves as insects by comparison. 10 came back and said it cannot be done. Caleb came back and said, we are well able. He was not lying about the giants. He saw them exactly as clearly as the other 10 did. The difference was not in his eyes. The difference was in what he measured the giants against. The 10 measured them against themselves. Caleb measured them against me. And here is what believing me cost him. It cost him 40 more years in the desert. Because the people listened to the 10 instead of the 2, an entire generation wandered until it died out in the sand. Caleb walked those years too. He kept a promise alive in his chest while burying the very people whose fear had delayed it. He did nothing wrong, and he waited anyway. Read that again. He did nothing wrong, and he waited anyway. So if you have been searching your own life for the sin that caused the delay, hunting for the moment you disqualified yourself, I want you to stop digging. Some waiting is discipline. Some waiting is simply the cost of standing in a world where other people also have choices. Not every delay in your life is a verdict on your character. My child, I am asking you to place a portion of what you have, something of real weight, upon the altar of this work, as gold laid on the scales of this calling. Let it be a seed sown into deep water, an offering set on stone, not held back in fear. This is proof that your trust rests in my hand to provide, and that your heart no longer clings to lack. What you release in faith does not leave your life. It moves ahead of you into the harvest I am preparing. Now let me finish telling you about Caleb, because the best part is the end. 45 years after I made him the promise, he stood in front of Joshua while the land was being divided up. He was 85 years old, and he did not ask for a quiet valley. He did not ask for the easy portion, the flat ground, the plot with no trouble on it. He said, "Give me this mountain." He asked for the high country, the one with the fortified cities, the one where the giants that had terrified 10 grown men 4 decades earlier were still living. He wanted the hardest piece of ground in the inheritance, and he wanted it at 85. And he said something I want written across your chest. He said, "I am as strong today as I was the day I was sent out. As my strength was then, so is my strength now." That was not bravado. It was accounting. He had watched me sustain him through 45 years of sand and disappointment and other men's cowardice, and he had drawn the only reasonable conclusion. If the one who made the promise has not weakened, then the promise has not weakened, and neither have I. There is no expiration on what I have spoken over you. You have quietly assumed there is. You have assumed that promises come with a window, and if the window closes, the promise turns to dust, and I move on to someone younger, someone earlier, someone who did not waste as much of the road as you feel you have wasted. That is not how I work. I am not bound by the calendar. I made the calendar. The years did not disqualify Caleb. They qualified him, not because suffering is noble on its own, but because he came out the other side knowing exactly what I was worth, and a man who knows that is dangerous to every giant in the country. I want to say something about the mountain he chose. He could have asked for less, nobody would have blamed him. At 85, with the promise finally in reach, the sensible thing is to take the safe portion and rest. Instead, he pointed at the hardest thing on the map and said, "That one," because he had learned something in the desert that easy men never learn. Nothing I give you is separate from me. If the mountain has giants on it, then the mountain requires my presence. So give me the mountain. Do you understand what he was really asking for? He was not asking for real estate. He was asking to stay in the place where he needed me. Some of what you are praying for right now would put distance between us, and you have not considered that. You are asking for the smooth road. I am considering whether the smooth road would end with you no longer speaking to me by winter. I am not withholding out of stinginess. I am weighing what a thing will cost your soul. And when I do give you the mountain, and I will, it will not be a mountain with nothing on it. There will be something living up there that has to be faced. That is not a flaw in the gift. That is the gift keeping you close to the giver. So hear me clearly about your own count. You are not too late. You are not too old. You are not too far behind whatever pace you imagined for yourself when you were young enough to imagine pace. If I can keep a promise burning inside one man through 45 years of desert wind and never let it go cold, I can keep yours. Ask me for the mountain, not the valley, not the settlement, not the smaller life you have been rehearsing yourself into accepting because it seemed safer to want less. Ask me for the mountain and mean it. There is a second objection sitting in you, and it is heavier than the first. The first was about time. This one is about you. Even if you accept that the years have not disqualified you, there is a part of your history that you believe has. Something you did, something that was done to you and left a mark you have never fully scrubbed off. Something you have decided is the reason I would be within my rights to pass you over. You have never said it plainly, even to yourself. It lives just below language, in the place where shame keeps its things. So let me bring you a woman. Her name was Rahab, and she lived inside the wall of a city under judgment. She made her living in a way that the respectable people of her day used as shorthand for everything unclean. If you had asked anyone in Jericho to name the last person heaven would use, they would have pointed at her house. 2 men came into that city to look at the land before my people took it. They needed somewhere to hide, and of every roof in Jericho they ended up under hers. The king's men came looking. She hid the 2 of them under stalks of flax on her roof and sent the soldiers off in the wrong direction. Then she came back up in the dark and said something extraordinary to 2 frightened strangers. She said, "I know the Lord has given you this land. We have heard what he did at the Red Sea. Our hearts have melted. Your God is God in heaven above and on the earth below." Understand what that is. That is not a woman making a deal. That is a confession of faith, spoken in the middle of a doomed city by someone with no religious standing whatsoever, based on nothing but reports she had heard secondhand about what I had already done for people she had never met. She believed a rumor of my goodness more firmly than most people believe what they see with their own eyes. The men gave her a sign. "Tie a scarlet cord in your window," they said. "When we come back, everyone gathered inside this house will be spared. Just a cord. A piece of dyed rope hanging in an opening in a wall." There was nothing powerful in the fabric itself. Its power was that it was the agreed sign. And she tied it, and she left it there, and she waited. Now think about what that waiting was like. She did not know the day. She did not know the hour. She had to live an ordinary life inside a city that was going to fall, with a red cord hanging in her window that meant nothing to anyone but her, while neighbors walked past and saw only decoration. That is what your faith looks like right now, my child. To everyone around you, it is a piece of cloth. To me, it is a covenant. You have been holding on to something you cannot prove. You have kept praying about a matter that has shown no visible movement. People close to you have started to look at you with a particular kind of patience, the kind that means they have privately decided you are being unrealistic, and you have kept the cord in the window anyway. I see the cord. When the walls of that city came down, one section stayed standing. The section her house was built into. Everything around it collapsed, and the one part connected to a promise did not. Then she walked out, and she did not walk out and vanish into the background of history. She married into the very people she had hidden. She became a mother in Israel, and her name appears, written plainly and without apology, in the line that runs down to my son. Sit with that for one moment. When the record of my son's ancestry was written, I did not quietly leave her out. I did not use a discreet phrase to skip over the awkward part. Her name is there, and beside it, in the plainest terms, is what she used to be. I did not hide it, because I was not embarrassed by it. You have been trying to get clean before you come to me, as if I am a room you cannot enter with mud on you. Rahab did not clean herself up and then get rescued. She was rescued from inside the mess, on the strength of one act of trust and a promise she could not yet see honored. Your past is not a barrier at my door. In many cases, it is the exact material I intend to build with. And I want to say something about the shame itself, because shame is not the same as guilt, and you have been treating them as one thing. Guilt says I did something wrong. That is useful. Guilt can be brought to me, dealt with, and closed. It has a shape and an ending. Shame says I am something wrong. That has no shape and no ending, and it cannot be resolved, only fed. It grows in the dark, and it starves in the light, and it has been eating well in your life for longer than it should have. I am not going to argue you out of it. I am going to tell you what I have already decided about you, and you can hold your feelings up against that and see which one gives way first. I have decided you are mine, not conditionally, not pending review. There is something else in Rahab's story people forget. When the sign was given, the terms included her whole household. Bring your father and your mother and everyone belonging to you into this house, they told her, and they will be safe. Her faith made room for people who had none of their own. Those you love, the ones you carry in prayer, the ones whose names you say into the dark when nobody is listening. They are not outside the reach of what you are believing. Your trust is not a private arrangement between you and me. It is a house with a door in it, and there is room inside for those you have been carrying. Keep the cord up. Keep praying for the ones who are not praying for themselves. The wall is going to come down. Your section is going to stand. And there is one more thing I promise to show you. Something small and heavy and sitting at the bottom of moving water. I have not forgotten it. I never forget what I have said I would do. Not the large things and not the small ones either. There was a group of men working near the Jordan, cutting timber to build a larger place to live. Ordinary work. Hard, plain, unremarkable labor on a warm day. One of them swung, and the iron head came off the handle and went into the river. He cried out immediately and listened to what he said, because it is not what you would expect. He did not say, "My axe is gone." He said, "It was borrowed." That is the sound of a poor man in trouble. Iron was expensive in those days. He did not own the tool. He had asked someone to trust him with it, and now it was at the bottom of moving water, and he had no way to replace it and no way to explain it. His grief was not about the loss. It was about the shame of owing something he could not repay. I know that sound. I have heard it come out of you. Not about a tool. About years you feel you took from people who were counting on you. About a season where you were not who you should have been and someone else paid for it. About the fact that what you lost was not only yours to lose, and that is the part that keeps you awake. The prophet Elisha asked him one question. Where did it fall? Not how did this happen? Not why were you careless? Not what does this say about your competence as a workman? Just show me the place. And the man showed him the spot, and Elisha cut a stick and threw it into the water at that exact place. And the iron floated. Iron does not float. I know this because I set the weight of it. I decided what sinks and what does not, and there is nothing in the nature of iron that permits it to rise on its own. But it rose. And then Elisha said something that I want you to hear in my voice rather than his. He said, "Take it up." The iron came to the surface, but the man still had to put his hand in the water and lift it out. I brought the impossible part to within reach. He had to reach. That is almost always how this goes between us. I do the part that cannot be done. You do the part that can. And the trouble in your life right now is not that I am unwilling to make the iron rise. It is that you have stopped putting your hand in the water, because the last several times you reached, you came up with nothing. Reach again. It is different this time, and I am telling you so before you can see it. Notice also where the miracle happened. Not at the temple, not during a festival. In the middle of a workday, in a stretch of the river with nothing holy about it, for a man whose only qualification was that he was upset and honest about why. You have been waiting to feel spiritual enough to bring me the real thing. You bring me the tidy items: health, guidance, patience, help with the day. And you leave the actual sunk thing in the water because it feels too specific or too shameful, or too small to bother me with, or too large to be reasonable. Show me where it fell. Say amen if you are ready to reach into the water again. That is all I am asking. Name the place. The month it happened, the room it happened in, the conversation that ended and never started again. You do not need to make it sound noble. The man by the river did not make a speech. He pointed at the water and said, "It was borrowed." Now let me speak to what you have called shocking, because I opened by telling you something was coming, and I have not left it behind. What is coming is not a blow. It is a surfacing. Something you have half known for a long time is going to come fully into the open. It might be the truth about a person near you, a thing you have sensed and talked yourself out of sensing, because the implications were too costly to hold. It might be a truth about yourself, about a habit or a fear that has been steering more of your life than you have admitted. When it surfaces, your first instinct will be to react, to speak fast, to defend or to accuse or to make an immediate decision so that the discomfort will end. Do not. Stand still for one breath longer than feels natural. That pause is where I will meet you. Everything you do out of a racing heart in the first 60 seconds will need to be undone later. Everything you do after the pause will hold. And do not read the surfacing as punishment. I am not exposing something in order to humiliate you. I am bringing it up the way iron came up out of that river, so that it can be dealt with in the daylight instead of rusting where nobody can reach it. A thing you cannot see cannot be healed. It can only be managed. You have been managing this for years, and you are tired, and management is not what I want for you. Some of what you lose in the coming days will feel like loss and will not be loss. When a cycle finally breaks, it does not leave quietly. It leaves loudly, and the noise fools people into grieving what was actually a release. Not everything that departs from your life is a subtraction. Some of it is a door finally clearing. You have been holding on to something out of habit, not conviction. You know exactly what it is. It came to your mind before I finished that sentence, and you flinched a little, and then you moved past it. Go back to it. You are allowed to set it down. It was never a test of loyalty. Holding it has cost you more than releasing it ever will. And when it goes, do not chase it out of fear that the space it leaves will stay empty. I do not empty a room in order to leave it empty. I clear ground because I intend to build. Now I am going to tell you why you have been so tired. You have assumed it was ordinary. Age, work, the general weight of a life. Some of it is. But there has been another layer under that, and you have been carrying it without knowing it was there, and a weight you cannot see is the heaviest kind there is. You have been in a fight nobody told you was happening. The adversary who works against you is not creative. He has one reliable method, and he has used it on my people since the beginning. He does not usually attack with catastrophe. Catastrophe wakes people up and drives them to prayer, and he knows it. He works by attrition instead. Small, repeated, wearing pressure. He tells you that you have prayed about this enough already and nothing changed, so why continue? He tells you that the person who wounded you will never soften, so stop hoping. He tells you that the door which closed is closed permanently, and the mature thing now is to accept a smaller life than the one I designed for you. And here is the cleverest part, so pay attention. He does not deliver those messages in a strange voice. He delivers them in yours. He has learned your speech patterns, your vocabulary, your particular way of being disappointed. So when the thought arrives, it does not feel like an attack. It feels like your own honest assessment finally catching up with your foolish optimism. You have been calling it realism. Much of it was not realism. It was strategy, aimed at you, from outside you. My word tells you plainly that I did not give you a spirit of fear, but of power and of love and of a sound mind. That is not a comforting phrase for a wall. It is a test you can apply. Take any thought that has been running through you at 3 a.m. Hold it up. Does it produce power in you, or paralysis? Does it move you toward love, or away from people? Does it leave your mind clearer, or does it leave you running the same loop for the 90th time with no new information? If a thought fails those 3, it did not come from me. I am not the author of that voice, and you are under no obligation to keep listening to it. You have been arguing with something you should have been dismissing. And understand why exhaustion is his weapon of choice. He cannot cancel what I have spoken. He has no authority over my word, and he never has. So he cannot change the promise, and instead he works on the one holding it, hoping to wear you down to the point where you quietly stop expecting it. He does not need you to renounce your faith. He only needs you tired enough to lower your voice. That is why some weeks your belief has felt like a candle in a draft rather than a fire. That was not the state of your heart. That was pressure applied deliberately by something that understands exactly how much you can take and has been aiming just past it. But consider what your still being here means. After everything aimed at you, after the years and the silence and the disappointments arriving one after another with almost deliberate timing, you are here, listening for my voice again. That is not the behavior of someone defeated. Something that is already lost makes a great deal of noise on the way out, and you have been mistaking the noise for its power. The volume is not strength. The volume is a retreat. Now I want to speak to you about a wound that is different from the others because it does not heal on the same schedule. Betrayal. Someone took something from you. Trust, most likely, and other things along with it. Money or reputation or years or the particular safety of being able to assume the best about people. And you have not fully forgiven it, and you have felt guilty about that, and the guilt has become its own second injury on top of the first. Let me put a man in front of you. Joseph was sold by his own brothers, not strangers, not enemies. The men he had grown up beside put him in a pit and then sold him to traders, and then dipped his coat in animal blood and carried the lie to their father's face and watched him break under it. Then they went home and ate dinner. Joseph went to Egypt as property. He was falsely accused there and jailed for a crime he refused to commit. He interpreted a dream for a man who promised to remember him, and that man walked out into freedom and forgot him for 2 full years. Nothing about that was fair, and I never asked him to pretend that it was. Years later, when the famine came and those same brothers stood in front of him, not recognizing him, asking for food, he had every legal and moral power to end them. He held their lives in his hand. He wept instead, loudly enough that the household outside the room could hear it. And what he said to them was this: "You intended harm against me, but God intended it for good, to save many lives." Hear the precision in that sentence, because people misuse it constantly. He did not say it was not harm. He did not say they meant well. He did not excuse them or minimize it or tell them it had all worked out so there was nothing to discuss. He named the harm as harm, and he named my purpose as something that ran alongside it and outlasted it. I did not author your betrayal. I do not build with treachery, and I will not have that laid at my feet. But there is nothing done to you that I cannot turn to account, and I want to relieve you of a burden about forgiveness that has been crushing you. Forgiveness is not the announcement that what happened was acceptable. It is not the restoration of access. You can release a person from your ledger and still not hand them the keys to your house again. Those are 2 separate decisions, and you are never required to make them at the same time. What forgiveness means is that you stop being the one who holds the debt, because holding it has been costing you interest every single day, and the other person has not felt a moment of it. You are the only one still paying. Set it down, not for their sake, not because they have earned it or apologized or ever will. Set it down because your hands were made for something else, and I have work for them. There is a rebuilding going on inside you right now, and it is quieter than you expected it to be. You have been waiting for transformation to feel dramatic. You assumed you would know it by the intensity of it. But most of what I do in a person happens the way a bone knits, which is slowly, out of sight, and without any sensation that would tell you the work is underway. You are not the same as you were an hour ago. You will not be able to prove that to anyone. You will only be able to notice it later, in how you respond to something that used to take you apart. Let me tell you what I have actually been doing. I have not been fixing you. Fixing is what you do to an object that is broken and needs to go back to how it was. I have no interest in returning you to a previous version. I am building something, and building is slower than repair, and it looks like disorder for much longer. That is why some seasons of your life have felt like collapse when they were construction. I want to give you your name back, because you have been going by the wrong one. You have been calling yourself late. You are not late. You are Caleb at 85, with the mountains still in front of him and his strength unspent. You have been calling yourself disqualified. You are not disqualified. You are Rahab with a red cord in the window and the wall about to fall everywhere except where you are standing. You have been calling yourself lost. You are not lost. You are iron at the bottom of a river in a place I know exactly, at a depth that means nothing to me, and my hand is already in the water. You have been calling yourself unheard. You are not unheard. You are Samuel in the dark, running to the wrong door with the right heart. And I have called your name a fourth time and a fifth, and I have never once stopped. That is who you are, not the account your fear has been keeping. Now some instructions for the days ahead, and I want you to hold them. Do not rush to explain what has happened to you tonight. Some things need to settle in you before they are put into words. If you tell it too early, you will find yourself defending it, and defending a thing is a poor substitute for living in it. Let it root first. Do not go looking for the old feeling. What you have received is not a mood, and it will not stay at this temperature. Tomorrow will be an ordinary day. The truth of what I have said does not depend on your ability to feel it at 9 in the morning. Do not lower the request again. You spent years narrowing what you would ask me for. When you catch yourself doing it, stop mid-sentence and ask for the whole thing. Do not measure the change by how fast it arrives. You will want a marker, something you can point at within a week to prove this was real. Growth does not perform on demand. It shows up in small refusals, in a word you do not say, in a fear you notice and then walk past. Those are the signs. They are unimpressive from the outside, and they are exactly what I am after. And when doubt comes back, and it will, do not treat its return as evidence that nothing happened. Doubt returning is not a verdict. It is weather. Stand still and let it pass over you rather than rearranging your life around it. I said at the beginning that I was tired of trying to speak to you. I want to close that properly, because I will not leave those words hanging over you. The tiredness is over. Not because you finally performed well enough to end it, but because you turned your head. That is all it ever took. A father who has been calling across a room is not tired anymore the moment the child looks up. You looked up. And now I want to answer the question underneath every other question you have brought me. You have wanted to know whether I am actually going to move. Here is my answer, and I want you to carry it out of this hour and into whatever ordinary thing you do next. I already moved. You have simply not seen it yet. The work is done. It was done before you sat down to listen. What remains is not my decision. It is the distance between a thing being true and a thing becoming visible. And that distance is measured in days, not in worthiness. So live like a person who has already been answered. Not smugly, not loudly, just steadily. The way a man walks who knows something the room does not know yet. Go gently with those you love in the coming days. Some of them are carrying more than they have told you, and the softness in you right now is not an accident. It was put there for someone. And when the thing surfaces, and it will surface, remember what I told you. Do not run. Do not react in the first minute. Stand in the light until your eyes adjust. You are not being punished. You are being awakened. You are not being emptied. You are being cleared. You are not being left. You have never once been left. Not in the year you barely survived. Not in the room where you decided nobody was coming. Not in any hour you have ever counted as wasted. I was there. I am here. I will be there. Now go and take the iron out of the water. Say it is done, and let that be the last word you speak tonight.
We run on viewer support only. For exclusive member-only content, scan the QR or see the pinned comment. God bless you.